The Reserve Bank could cut the cash rate today, easing pressure on households struggling with higher mortgage repayments and the cost of living. Market pricing suggests rates will fall to 3.85%. Economists are divided though, some suggesting the RBA may offer a surprise 0.5% cut, others predicting no change at all. The RBA has been slower than other countries to join the global easing cycle. So there are three options that are expected. First is for the RBA to leave the rate at 4.1% unchanged. Most would expect, though, option two, which is for the RBA to reduce the cash rate by 25 basis points or 0.25%, something both business and consumers would welcome. A third option is a jumbo cut of 50 basis points or 0.5%. And for more on thoughts about this, joining me live is Judo Bank Chief Economist Warren Hogan. Good to see you, Warren. Look, I know you've been on the more pessimistic side when it comes to cutting the cash rate by the RBA. Take us through, what is the RBA actually weighing up at the moment ahead of this decision this afternoon?
Yeah, good morning, Kenny. They have had a very complex scene this last month since the tariff announcements by the Trump administration really sent markets into a spiral and created a lot of uncertainty about what the outlook for the global economy was. That's settled down, which is good news. And I think that was the source of this view that there could be a 50-point cut. But I think that's highly unlikely now that that has all settled down. Those risks are out there. So it's back to looking at the domestic economy. And since they last cut in February, the actual economy here has played out pretty well. So you could easily make the case just on the basis of what's happening here in Australia that they stand pat today because inflation is still sitting in the background. And of course, we're creating lots of jobs. So that's sort of why you've got this range of expectations. The easy option, of course, is to cut 25. And I think the RBA thinks they've got at least one or two rate cuts up their sleeve before they need to be cautious given where inflation's sitting.
And if they do cut interest rates, it basically means that mortgage holders have more money. Is it the likely scenario that people then go out and spend that money and then there's that risk of adding to inflation, which is something the RBA doesn't want?
Well, there is that. I mean, I think it sits in the background. They've cut once. This would be the second. It's not a huge amount of stimulus. And of course, the RBA themselves think that interest rates are still above their sort of neutral level, which means it's still a bit restrictive. But, people are cautious out there. There's no two ways about that. We've had amazing employment growth in this country, yet consumer spending is only picking up very gradually, which tells us people are saving more and they're worried about the future. So the rate cut might not actually end up in the grocery store or any other retail outlet. It may end up, though, in the property market. It will give home buyers a little bit more room for manoeuvre on their mortgage.
And what are the banks doing? Because I've been hearing that the banks have been cutting the interest rate for new customers, but are they likely to pass on the rate cut straight away to variable rate holders, mortgage holders? What's your opinion about what the banks are actually doing and responding to this?
Yeah, well, when the big banks are looking to increase market share, they'll tend to cut for new and leave the back book or their existing customers alone. But of course, it's pretty easy to move your mortgage around these days, so that there's only so far they can do that before they start actually losing customers. So I'd anticipate most of a rate cut today to be passed through. But of course, if we see further rate cuts in the future, that's not guaranteed because this is a more problematic economy. Money is increasingly more expensive for banks. But look, at this stage, I think the banks are going to pass it on.
Just sneaking in a question on Labor's superannuation tax, if I can, on unrealised gains in super accounts over $3 million. It seems the government is pushing ahead with no indexation despite criticism. And the Deputy Prime Minister said yesterday, well, he didn't explicitly rule out taking unrealised gains in other places, saying the super tax is the only place that they're looking at right now. What's your thoughts on this morning?
Well, I mean, I didn't see the Deputy Prime Minister's comments, but if they do not isolate this sort of a new tax to just super, then I think it's a disastrous precedent because the problem with unrealised gains for the great majority of Australians is they don't have money just sitting on the sidelines ready to pay tax to the ATO if their assets go up in value. I mean, I think it's going to be a bit of a push for many with their super but to do it more generally is I think, going to have a massive backlash. So they've got a real communications problem on their hand, but it reflects a bigger issue, and that is they cannot control their spending. They are taxing this economy to the edge of its capacity. And of course, they're looking for new sources of income. My advice to them would be to look at trying to actually stop the growth in spending and leave the taxes alone for the moment.
Warren Hogan, appreciate it. Thanks so much for joining us on the program.